first time meeting him, so I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a bio on him from the program notice. While it takes extraordinary physical condition to be in the Air Force Special Ops or to best the many Ironmans he's bested, Robert will readily affirm that success in these physical endeavors and in life in general is as much a matter of will and mental attitude as it is physical conditioning. When most have long since slowed as they approach their golden years, the fittest 66-year-old in the world continues to routinely take on unprecedented challenges and to help others see what can be achieved in their own lives. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce member number 1185, Robert Owens. The handheld mic's on the podium.
Well, hi, everybody. Good evening. Nice to be back. I used to come an awful lot, but like many, I'm from Orange County, and I get up about 4:30 in the morning, and I've fallen asleep through more presentations than I've actually listened to. And finally, my wife said, "What are you doing? You just can't keep going up there and falling asleep all the time." So I said, "Sweet." And anyway, I put myself on an adventure, and this is the book I just came out with. It's called Beyond Average. And the reason that I wrote this book is that I'm an average guy. I'm a guy that's never won anything, never been on first team of any sport, never been the stud, never been the guy that's been, wow, you're the big man on campus kind of guy. But I had a water polo coach in high school. His name was John Urbanchek. And he ended up being the U.S. Olympic swim team coach and Hall of Fame coach. He went from Hungary, 56 Olympics, to Anaheim High, where he didn't speak English. And then he coached us like we were Olympians. And we weren't, but we were just kids. And he taught us that hard work beats better talent. And so he then began to position us to take on other teams like Newport Harbor, CDM, Corona Mar, and Long Beach and stuff, and do things that we were not supposed to do. And he trained us in such a way that we, as kids, non-age group swimmers, in those days you had AAU age group, little kids swimming all the way through, then they get to high school. Or the kids that just started high school. We had a 3-year high school at Anaheim High. We would start and we would listen to him and do 3 workouts a day. And pretty soon we were winning everything. And we put 2 of our guys on the Olympic team in water polo. We had 5 All-Americans 3 years in a row. And it was all because he then got in our heads that don't look at the talent. Just do your deal. Just learn to work hard. And so because of that, he went from there to Long Beach State, from there to University of Michigan, and from there to the U.S. Olympic coach. And I see him every once in a while. He's 83. He lives in Fullerton, coaches part-time at USC. And he's our USA rep for the Tokyo Olympic Games, which may or may not happen. But anyway, he said, you average kids, there's more in you than you understand. Don't compare and contrast yourself with the super smart or the super gifted. Just stay in your lane and do all that you can do to be all that you can be. And forget about comparing and contrasting with anybody else. And what it taught me was that if I wanted something bad enough, I usually found a way to get it. So I found that I was a lazy guy, a lazy kid, ponytail. It was the 60s and 70s. But when I wanted to focus, there was nothing that would stop me from focusing and working really hard and finding that I could attain things if I put that focus on one thing. And I learned that there's 2 people inside me and 2 people at least inside of all of us. One is the person that you are, and the other one is the person that you dream to be. And the person that you dream or wish you were wants to come out in all of us, but we don't know how to get that person out at any age. And so when I then was training for special ops, again, I was average and I didn't think I'd make it. And so I went to people and I focused and I said, what do I got to do? If you know Navy SEAL stuff, I was Air Force. Some of you don't know that there's 4 groups of special ops. There's Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, used to be called Green Beret. There's Force Recon and Marines, and the smallest, Semper Fi, And then the smallest of the groups is called pararescue. It's the Air Force. When I was in, there was 200 of us and 3,000 Navy SEALs. And it's our job to go in and rescue all the guys that get shot. And so we're combat paramedics. And when I heard about rescuing, I was lifeguarding at San Clemente in high school, and I heard these pararescue stories of guys doing these rescues. I said, finally I'm in. And I said, but I can't do it because I'm not hot. And these pararescue guys said, do what we say and train like this. And so for 6 months, I trained in such a way that my parents thought I'd lost my mind because I'd never focused on anything that much, unless it was a girl. You just don't focus like that. I mean, you just go dark and you don't talk to people and you just eat, and you train, and you do it as if your life depends on it. And for me, my life depended on it because I didn't want to be a quitter and I didn't want to flunk out. So I trained in fear. And when I got in our class of 150, when everything finally worked out, we graduated 7 in our class, and they made me team leader. And I said, wow. And they said, you're not average. But everything within me, growing up in a Mensa home, my dad's Phi Beta Kappa out of Stanford, and my mom was a 4.0 out of UCLA, and my sister's a 4.0 out of SC, and I'm about a 2.0, surfing and skiing and having a great time besides doing academics. I felt like I couldn't compete in that world, that I was just an average kid. And so when I got through there, the instructor said to me, do you know that you're not average? And my head, though, said, but I am. And he said, you're not, and that's why we're making you team leader of the 6 guys that are still here. And then he said some other choice things to me, like, if you screw up, I'm going to have your ass, and I'll find you someplace. Put the fear of God inside me. And so we began doing our thing. When I got out of pararescue, I'd completely changed. I changed because I'd grown up. I went from a kid getting a master's degree in irresponsibility to a kid that's now in charge of saving people's lives and putting guys in body bags on a regular basis. And, parachuting into your guys and going in on your old HH-53s and Jolly Greens and all that stuff. And so you grew up real quick. I delivered my first baby at 23 in the back of a helicopter. And I said, please don't have a baby on me. And she pulled up her thing, and out came this kid crowned, and there's blood everywhere. And I said to the captain, we're having a baby back here. And he goes, have fun, Rook. And it was just, oh my, we're in the game, The whole back of the helicopter ends up full of blood, and they just laugh. They just think it's really funny. But I delivered all 5 of my kids. I said to my OBGYN, move over, And he goes, you can't do that. I said, get out of my way. I've been delivering babies before you were. And so I delivered all 5 of my kids because you gain confidence, right? Hello? You gain confidence when you go through barriers, when you learn that you can do things that you don't think you can do. I read then in Sports Illustrated about this thing that was supposed to be the toughest race in the world, and it was before Ironman was really Ironman. But I just got out of the Air Force, and I read about this thing in Honolulu, and it sounded like something I could do. Being a beach guy, it was a water thing, run, bike, swim, ocean. And so, again, everyone told me, it's impossible to do that. Don't go, don't try. And I said, why? And they said, because you can't do it. And of course, that stirs something in somebody or certain types. And I said, I know, but I know I'm not average. I'm better than average, but that's over the top. And so I called some folks and trained for that, did Ironman number 3. When we drank beer, there was 100 of us back in 1980. And when I survived that, after passing out on the highway at Honolulu Marathon course and getting up and finishing and all this stuff, people said, you're not average. And I said, I understand, but there's 2 people living inside me. One that says, hey, dude, relax. You're in over your head. Don't try. And the other one says, you can do this. You can do this. There's more in you than you know. And I went back to what I learned in pararescue, which was, we believe that there's 20 times more potential in everybody than they've ever allowed someone to bring out of them. Because most people have a dream or a goal, and then they get to a certain pain threshold. Emotional pain, physical pain, financial pain, relational pain, physical pain. And when they hit that barrier, hit that wall, their mind collapses, and they say, I shouldn't try this, or what was I thinking? But we were taught there's so much more, that you have reservoirs of talent. You should try all these things. So after doing that Ironman and finishing that, everyone told me it was impossible. I came away and I did it. And I sort of went, bizarre, I did it. Can't believe I did it. I made it. After that, my life was sort of on a trajectory of what are the things that I should try to do, and where do I find the coaches or the mentors or the instructors who will help me get to those goals. Take that forward. I did an Ironman every year from 50 on without training for them, trying to see again if I could just be a conditioned athlete who shows up one day a year and runs, bikes, and swims. And so for 10 years in a row, I just would get in good shape, and then I wonder if today I could pull all three of these off. A 2.5 mile swim, 112 bike, and then do that marathon. When I got to about 63, I noticed, I'm 68, when I got to 63, I noticed that the competitors from 60 to 65, 65 to 70, 70 to 75 were losing their tensile strength. You could see it when you looked at them. Their wrinkles are different than they were in their 50s. And so I would say to them, as I mentioned some of the guys at dinner, hey, what's up? Great to see you here. How's it going? And they then said, we can push the pedal, but not like we used to. And we could pull the water, but not like we used to. And I told a story about this lady who at 78 went back and got a strength coach because she couldn't finish her Ironmans. And at 80, with her strength coach help, she not only finished it, but she beat her time by an hour and a half. Meaning that it's an excuse to think that just because you age, you have to accept aging on that term. And so I said to myself at 63, I wonder if I can grow older and stronger at the same time. My own personal experiment on me. I want to know if I can get as strong in my 60s as I was in my 20s when I was a special ops guy. And so the audacity of that is, of course you can't. But I got around people who believe that you can do things that you shouldn't try to do. And for 3 years, I submitted myself to a CrossFit coach, actually 2 CrossFit coaches, and added my stuff from pararescue, and then said, what am I going to do? And along that time of training, of getting ready to see if I can get stronger, I found 5 events. And 4 of the events, I was told I was too old to do it, that it was impossible and I shouldn't try. And that was by CrossFit coaches and by Navy SEALs and by Air Force Pararescue. They all said, Owens, you're old, dude. Just lay down and be happy that you're in the game, And so I said, right. And so I then said, I need to put together a program for 3 years to get me ready to be like a decathlete. I want to see if somebody can be an anaerobic and an aerobic athlete in the same body. So an aerobic athlete is the guy that just keeps his heart rate at a certain level for a long period of time, marathoner, speed walker, swimmer. You just sort of get your heart like this. An anaerobic athlete is like a 100-yard dash guy. That's where you spike your heart over and over, running stairs. You're either one or the other. You're usually not, you don't ask a 100-yard dash guy to do marathons. Don't ask marathon guys to do 100-yard dashes. And so one of the 5 events was a 50-hour nonstop anaerobic event. It's a Navy SEAL Hell Week thing in San Diego with all Navy SEAL instructors. And of course they said, you're way too old to show up, so don't show up. And so I went to a Navy SEAL instructor and said, coach me. I want to smoke this thing. I want that record. And he said, well, this is what it will take to do that. But before that happened, there were these other events. So what ended up happening in this book, Beyond Average, which is how do you get to do the things at 65 and 66 that I did, it starts in high school. It starts in college. It starts with those early mentors who get in your head that shape your thinking, right? You just don't do that overnight. You got to put in your 10,000 hours on a piano or 10,000 hours on a spelling bee. Well, you have to develop your brain also if you're going to do endurance types things. The first thing that we did was there's the movie 300. Most of you have seen the movie 300. We reenacted the movie 300 from Sparta to Thermopylae. The legend has it 8 days, 238 miles. We did it for the guys that died in Benghazi. So we did a Navy SEAL fundraiser for our contractors that died in Benghazi, the Hillary Clinton situation. Raised $350,000 to do a warrior march for our fallen warriors. And that was a trip because how do you do 30 miles a day up and down mountains? And for time. And so again, I was the oldest guy there, and I was told, hey, don't keep the group back. And so the first day, the Navy SEAL retired chief said to me, are you going to keep up? And I was having a tough time. The first day was a 6-hour incline up and out of Sparta, and then a 4-hour downhill run. And we'll show you in the pictures. I popped both big toes the first day, toenails, and so it ended up being a long week, to say the least. But to do that and then go, I'm not going to be the last guy in the group, I'm going to be up at the front of the pack the rest of the week, was a personal challenge to see if I could do 238 miles in 8 days. And we did. When we got done with that, there was another one right after that. There was a thing called the Quest. It's here in Southern California. It's for the lifeguards, beach lifeguards that have died rescuing people. And so you could only run in the Quest if you were a beach lifeguard in honor of our beach lifeguards. It's a run from the San Clemente Pier to the Newport Beach Pier. And you run, swim, run, swim, run, swim, run, swim, 26 miles nonstop. It's about a 9-hour day. And again, I'm the oldest guy by 25 years to show up. And these kids, they're running backwards and talking, and I'm just out of breath like this is not right. Anyway, we're having this day out there just getting cooked in the sun and get down to the wedge. We go around the wedge in a lifeguard boat and drop us off, and we start running the sand again. And I finished that. And they all say, hey, let's go out for pizza. Let's have a wonderful time. And I can't walk. And I just say to them, I'm going to stand right here for a minute. Why don't you go, and I'll be right here. And I called my wife, and I said, hey, wife, where are you? Get that car as close to me as possible. And can you come up and help me? And so, I waddled down to this car. I'm just cooked. And I go home and get in the lazy boy and get a glass of wine. And they call me, hey, Mr. Owens, where are you? Oh, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. We're waiting for you at the pizza place. Yeah, okay, I may come, may not, And I'm at home out. And they go, what happened to you? I go, you stupid man, I'm done. I can do this. The third one was this thing called Kokoro, and it's a Commander Mark Devine. He is a Navy SEAL retired commander who was asked by the Navy to start a program where you take a CrossFit and you turn it into a SEAL fit, meaning you adapt the exercises and the workouts of the day the way the military would do it. And he has a 12-hour nonstop, a 24-hour nonstop, and then he has the big one, which is 50 hours. And you say, why 50? Because in Hell Week, most of the kids that can make it to the 50-hour mark can go on past that. Most of the kids that quit psychologically about the 50th hour. That's the end of the second day and the second night. It's Wednesday. And so he then developed a program where people flying from all over the country to be trained. And then special ops guys, as well as Homeland Security and ICE and FBI, would send their guys in before deployment issues to get them in shape. And so, again, I would be the oldest guy to ever attempt that. And Mark said to me, you don't want to do this. And I said, of course I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. Train me. So I said to him for 3 years, do what you have to do to get me in a place where you won't crush me. And he said, we're going to probably crush you. And I said, okay. So anyway, we do this 50 hours nonstop. We'll show it in this film. And it was the worst experience of my life. And if I had known what it was, I wouldn't have done it. But I just knew that I'd rather die than quit. And pararescuemen are known for not being quitters. And the reason that we're not quitters is when we have to rescue people, people put their trust that we're going to come get them. And we would rather die with our guy than get out alone. And so he said to me when he shook my hand, we just watched you. Because we knew you wouldn't quit, and we didn't know what was going to happen to you. We just didn't know if you'd fall over, have a heart attack. We were just going to watch you expire. And so I said, sweet, appreciate that. Thank you very much. But he shook my hand. And when he shook my hand, he said, well, you've done it. I said, no, I haven't done it. I got an Ironman in 3 weeks. And he just looked at me, and I said, and then I have 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents right after that. And he looked at me, and I won. I won because I had his eyes go, no, you're not. I go, yeah, I am. This is nothing. And he just went, okay, tell me what's done. 3 weeks later, I did my 12th Ironman, and it was because I was just in good shape. All I did was swim a little bit. And then lastly, I had to lose the weight and the strength that I had by running, and I didn't know how to run 7 marathons in 7 days. It's called the World Marathon Challenge, 7 marathons, 7 days, and 7 continents. And so what I thought was, I go online, and there was only one guy, our year was year 4. One guy said, I trained doing 5 days at 20 miles. And I figured if I could do 5 20s, I could do 7 26s. And so I thought, I have never experienced that kind of pain before. So I put on my weight vest, my old 20-pound military weight vest, and said, I'm going to run 5 days at 22 miles with a 20-pound weight vest. Because I want to experience the mental pain that I'm probably going to hit somewhere in this situation out there. And so I trained that way, and you'll see maybe a picture or two. And then oldest guy get out there, and you go from Antarctic to Cape Town, and you do those first 2 marathons within about 17 hours. So you do 2 back-to-back. And then you go to Perth, Australia, from Perth up to Dubai for Asia, and then you go to Lisbon. By that time, you're in the other part of the equator, and Lisbon is cold, wet, rainy on cobblestones at night. So you do 4 night marathons in a row, which after you do your first one and second one after Cape Town, then you do Perth, Dubai, Lisbon, and then you fly to Cartagena, Colombia, and you get off and you run by yourself in the dark. And you do that, then you end up with Miami. And so what you learn is, again, there's far more in you than you ever thought, because you have to do the first 2 together on the same day, and you have to do the last 2, because the flight from Cartagena is only 2.5 hours. So as soon as you land, you got to run again. And so what was bizarre is when I got done in Cartagena, and I came in off the course, all these people, probably 30, we had 35 guys and 15 women in my year, they were sitting in the lobby, and nobody went to bed. And I said, you've just done your 6th marathon, and you just want to sit here in the lobby and talk and eat and laugh? And they said, we were tired a long time ago. Who needs sleep? And so we got on the plane 2.5 hours, got off the plane in Miami, and ran another one in the daytime. Started at 12 noon in Miami heat, and ran another one. Meaning that they didn't know how much they had capacity in them until they got in that place, and they, screw sleep. We don't need sleep. We were tired a long time ago. How many people would think like that? Not too many. All that's to say then is that everything that you desire in life is outside your comfortability. And our brains teach us to be comfortable. And our brains protect us from pain. And our brains protect us from putting ourselves in situations that are uncomfortable every day. And everything that you desire in life is outside your comfortability. And if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, you can't do anything. So the lesson for me as a father of 5, and now I train Navy SEAL guys, and I train Air Force Special Ops guys for a living. What I say to them is, everything you want is buried in your suffering. If you're not willing to suffer, if you don't embrace suffering, you can't grow as a person. And what we teach is, if you haven't learned to say no, then you'll never say yes. You'll never accomplish anything. Meaning, if you can't say no to that one donut, then that donut owns you. If you can't say no to that cigarette, it owns you. If you can't say no to that drink, it owns you. If you're emotionally involved with everything around you, how do I feel? How do you feel? Are you feeling okay? What do you feel like? If you live by your feelings, you won't do anything. But maybe get married and maybe stay married or get divorced. Because how do you feel? So we teach people, if you want to embrace life, you've got to embrace suffering. And suffering is, you're going to have to study harder than you've ever studied before. You're going to have to say no to this so you can say yes to this. You're going to have to say no to those friends to focus on this. You're going to have to say no to your spending if you need these monies to hire a trainer. If you can't say no to the things that are in front of you, they'll corrupt your thinking and steal your dreams. Because all of you are able to do more, but you've got to embrace the suck of wrestling with yourself. And no one wants to wrestle with themselves. Because each one of you, in your conscience, has things telling you all the time, don't do that. You know better than that. Why are you doing that? And you have that inner wrestling, that inner dialogue inside, and one of you wins. The right person that's making the right decision or the wrong person that's making the wrong decision. And we train kids now, can you learn to take yourself on and do what's right and say no to those friends? Losers hang with losers. Winners hang with winners. Excuse-minded people always find excuse-minded friends. Do you know who you are? And are you willing to embrace you and wrestle you to the mat and get uncomfortable and then make decisions that will take you towards those dreams? And with my 5 kids, I just say, what's your excuse? And they say, Dad, get off my case. I go, I'm on your case. We made smart kids. What are you doing? That's stupid. That's not going to get you anywhere. You hang with people who think like that? And we wrestle at any age. Just to say this, I moved home. I stopped everything a few years ago, and I moved home to be with my dad. And my dad was 91. I said, Dad, what do you want after my mom died? I want you to come home. I want to die in my own house. He said, sweet. So I came home. My dad was fading at 91. And, they're sweet. He's just a sweet guy. But his thighs left because he sat around reading books all the time. And the more you sit in a chair, the more you lose your thighs. You have no strength. So he had a chair that he really liked, and he couldn't get out of it. Big old soft chair, you'd go way down in it, but how do I get out of that thing? And he'd call for me or somebody to get him out of the chair. And I'd say, hey, Dad, you're 91. We're not going to be pulling you out of this chair the rest of your life. You want the chair, earn the chair. We're taking it away. He said, you're not taking my chair. I said, yeah, I am. We're not going to let you just call us all the time to get you out of that chair. You want the chair? Get out of the chair on your own. Well, I can't do that. I said, yeah, I can. You're just lazy. And he said, well, what do I got to do to keep my chair? And I said, get your act together. Let's get out of this chair and let's start doing some exercises. Get your legs back. He said, all right. So I would take him. Is this on?
You got to press the button to make it green. Right near the red light.
Still red.
Keep pressing.
Keep pressing.
New microphone.
And so, is this one good? Yeah. So I'd say, hey, Dad, let's take a walk. And so with that, I would say, take your cane and let's motor. And so we'd walk down the street, a bunch of seniors, and here's my dad walking, And I'd say, Dad, I want you to give me 5 squats. And he'd say, all right. And so he'd put his hands on the top of the cane, and he'd go. I'd say, that's sweet, Dad, looking good. And I'd say, but why can't you get down any lower? He goes, all right. So he, and cars are driving by. And some of these people who knew my dad go, what are you doing to him? I said, I'm working him out. He likes his chair. He wants his chair. Later, get out of here. And so we'd walk down the way, and I'd say, Dad, give me 10 more, will you? And he'd go down the street. He would hold on a car for a minute, and then, I'd say, get deeper, Dad. Get deeper, Dad. Come on. Come on, Dad. My dad got to 4 sets of 25. Deep squats, 4 sets of 25 on his cane at 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and he died at 101, stronger than when he was 91. Got it? So what's the point? He wanted his chair. And he was mad that we wouldn't come get him out of his chair, you know? The point is that at 91, he had still more capacity in him than he ever thought that he had. He thought he was fading like all of his friends. Got it? His closing thing to me was, hey, I'm going to be dead here. What are you going to do after I die? And I said, I'm not sure. I've spoken in 30 nations, and I got 4 million miles speaking around the world and training guys and coaching and consulting. And I had stopped for 10 years, so I'm out of the game. You know, what are you going to do when you come back? And he said to me, son, listen to me. They retired me at 60. He was a judge, presiding judge of Orange County. He said, they retired me at 60 and put me out to pasture. I didn't want to get off the bench. They made me get off the bench. And they said, go get your golf clubs and play and get your watch and move over. Your time's done. And none of us wanted to get off the bench at 60. Like pilots don't want to quit today at 60 and 65. He said, if I'd known I was going to live 35 more years after retirement, I would have started another career. But we were told to just go play golf and die. Get out of the way. Be a retiree. Go travel the world. He said, if you're smart, son, you'll get another game plan, a business plan from 60 to 90. Because those are your best days. Because you've made all your mistakes, and you know who you are, and you know what you're gifted in, and you know what you can do, and you know kids, and you know how to mentor, and if ever there's a time to live a rich life, it's when you can give it away. The challenge is, he said, that when they write you off at 60, they stop talking to you because you're old. So my dad's Phi Beta Kappa Stanford, undergrad grad. J. Edgar Hoover comes and gets him, brings him, puts him in the FBI, top 5 in his class, chases Germans around the United States, World War II, quits, joins the Army because he doesn't think he's doing enough, and ends up being a prosecuting attorney in the Japanese war crimes trials. Gets home from there, becomes Mrs. Irvine's lawyer. Santa Ana boy comes home. Boltons, Dyers, Edingers, all the old families, Irvines. Becomes this judge. He has all this stuff, speaks and teaches. As soon as he retires, the phone stops. And he says, when I had the most to give, no one wanted me to give anything. And I went to places I'd like to give, and they said, you're old. He said, if you're smart, you'll stay relevant. You'll fight to stay relevant after 60. Don't let them put you on the shelf any sooner than they will. He said, you're irrelevant right now. You're done. Who are you going to be? What are you going to be when I die? He said, get that business plan. That's when at 63 I said, well, who do I want to come back as? What do I want to do? What's my marketing plan? And that's when I said, at 63, I'm going to try this experiment if I can get older and stronger at the same time. And then I found those 5 impossible things to do in a row, which they all said you can't do. And then the thing worked out that I was being interviewed at Spartan Games at Dodger Stadium, and the founder of Spartan Games, Joe DeSena, in a podcast says, you are the fittest and mentally toughest 66-year-old in the world, bar none. And when he said that, I went, cha-ching. I worked about 4 years to get him to say that. Why? Because that positions me now to go back and work with kids. I'm not irrelevant. You try it, stud, punk. You see it, if you can do it. Therefore, going into my 70s, I'm still in the game with the kids. So when I train special ops kids today, and I work with young people and business guys, I'm still relevant. I'm not a senior telling old stories that they've already heard 3 or 4 times. Make sense? So my goal is to be a health and wellness fitness guy. When I speak to over 50, I speak on you choose how you age. You choose how you age. I spoke to Menza of Southern California here, Long Beach the other day. They come in on walkers and come in on rollers and 100 pounds overweight. I said, you know, you can be really smart and live really stupid. You got to your retirement years and you made all this money, and now you're just giving it to the hospitals, the doctors, and the pharmaceuticals. Because all that money to get to 60, and now you're just a mess. Your body's toast. You can't do anything. And all these people start crying, you know, I'm sorry, I don't know what I... Yeah, you did. You let your body go. You never changed the oil, never rotated tires, just thought this thing ought to run and run and run and run. So when I speak to that group, it's always, you can age better. When I speak to middle-aged folks, so what's your goals? How are you doing this? What are you doing? What do you need to say no to so you can come into the best place in your life? When I speak to kids, I speak on, you're so much smarter than you think. You're so much more gifted than you think. And there's so much more in you than you have any idea, but you're lazy and you're weak. You're mentally soft. You're weak. And anytime pressure comes, you bail and you cave in. And it's going to steal your life from you unless you look in the mirror and deal with yourself and grow up. And they just look at you like, where'd you come from? And I say, because I was you. I graduated high school with a C average. I was in jail by 16. My dad was the judge. Not good. It took me a while to grow up and get it, that your best days are ahead, but your decisions continue at any age to determine your destiny, right? So it's fun to be back and see you and talk to you, and I haven't been around because I've been training, and I'm gone a lot. I train folks, and I'm just not around a whole lot. Well, what I want to do is I'll just show you this video real quick, and then I'll take a couple questions. We'll go home. Because we always get out here too late.
Are you getting old?
Pardon me?
You want to go home because you're old?
Yeah, I'm old. Just don't tell me, please. This is a video I put together with my son. These are adventures that I did prior to military, like climbing McKinley and working in Cambodia with refugee stuff. And this is the highest bungee jump in the world. That's a long time ago. And this is an Arctic scuba jump. Snowing outside, 20 below zero, and I'm going to make a jump.
So what's that sound in that?
It should have sound, but it's okay. That's a 22-story run down the face. And that was me back when I was 22 years old. And that's in training. I don't know where the sound is. This is where I'm sailing across the Atlantic. And this is people doing real things. And tonight we don't have any sound. I had to write down all these things. What if I could pull this thing off? And these are guys I trained with. And they all said, don't do what I wanted to do. And this is Greece. This is my training vest. That's my CrossFit coach. And this is the first part of every day, 30 miles. That's marathon and blah, blah, blah. That's our coach. We had to go up those mountains and down those mountains every day, just over and over and over. And you just run. That's in Sparta. This is us doing a ascent. You just go. And the surroundings are so beautiful. This is downtown Sparta. This is the Quest. This is a guy that I worked out with. That's me taking a break at the Quest. That's like, 4 hours in. This is, again, those are my toes. That's after the first day. And they've been sort of sweet, huh? This is back when I was a kid, I'm in the middle there. These pictures got all scrambled. That's Naval Scuba School. This is Kokoro. This is that 50-hour nonstop thing. If you see that one over here, I'm climbing up the stairs backwards. That's at the 44-hour mark at 3 in the morning. And we do all the ocean work and all the stuff. And you just go for hours. The goal is they want to take all the skin off your knees and your elbows in the first hour. Then you have 49 hours to go feeling like, wow, this hurts.
And the cold's the toughest challenge I hear.
You know, my back went out in the cold. You can see I have a black face there. The challenge with the black face was the instructor said I smiled too much, and so he made me stick my face in a puddle of mud, blow bubbles. He said he didn't want to see my face the rest of the time, so I had to stick my face, and then he made me eat breakfast. And so, anyway, it got real cold. Got cold in the Pacific, but it got cold back inside. Anyway, you do 100 of these nonstop for 50 hours. And that's going to be the end of that, I guess. No sound or anything else. Let's turn the light back on real quick. Any of you have any questions you'd like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Are the stories about your father and the squats in your book and what he said
Yeah.
to you about not retiring?
Yeah, it's in chapter 1.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want one.
You want one? Yes, sir.
I think I might know the answer to this, but was the physical challenges or the mental challenges of breaking through the mental part versus the physical pain harder?
There's a book out called How Bad Do You Want It by a guy named Matt Fitzgerald. The thesis of the book is that there's a different chemical released in your brain from mental pain than the chemical that's released from physical pain. And you don't know the difference. And the mental pain will shut down your physical capabilities. So if you haven't learned to understand that chemical and feel that chemical, then it'll always overwhelm you. That's called hitting a wall, you know, marathons and stuff. So you have to learn to hit that pain threshold, and we say it's 80% mental and 20% physical. All that we do in special ops or in Ironmans and stuff, it's first here, it's first won here. Because if you haven't won it here, you can't win it anyplace else. So you have to learn how to press through that kind of pain. And you all know that you have pain in your marriage, or pain in your finances, or pain in relationships, and a certain kind of pain comes and it wants to crush you, takes away your hope, can't do it, don't know what I'm gonna do, right? Financial stuff. And so if you haven't learned to wrestle with that kind of intense pain, it'll shut everything else down for you because you can't think. And that's why we work a lot on anxiety and panic with our special ops guys, because if they get full of anxiety and panic, they can't perform, they can't think. So how do we get them back in a place of being in control, shutting out that pain, and working it through? And we teach a 4-step process that you do that every minute or every 2 minutes or every 30 seconds. You break that pain by your breathing. And with your breathing, then you reboot your mind, shut out the negative dialogue, put the positive dialogue back in, talk out loud to yourself, and reboot and go on. It's a mental game. Yes, sir.
When did you first hit your first wall doing that stuff, and then how did you overcome it?
You know, in my first Ironman, I didn't drink enough. And so halfway in the marathon course, I pulled over to take a pee, and it was all dark brown. And I went, I'm cooked. So they tried to take me off the course. And I said, no, I cut it, you know, it's cool. And so I got around the corner and fell out in the guy's yard, passed out. Did the dead fish, you know, in the guy's front yard, where your brain's going, body, stop doing this. But your body's not listening, it's just flopping, and you're peeing in your pants, you're just out of it. And these guys came, grabbed me, some Army guys, and poured 5 big bottles of Gatorade down my throat and said, you okay? I said, stand me up. And when I finally stood up, put my arms around him, pretty soon took my arms off him, finished the marathon with a faster time than I'd done, my body completely kicked back in gear when you put water in the sponge. And when I finished, I was so bummed that it was over because I was passing up all these guys because my body came back. And that's when I learned you can hit multiple walls and you just need to think them through. So since that time, I have hit multiple walls in lots of those kind of things. I've passed out in 3 Ironmans. And told the ambulance, you're not taking me away. Just give me some fluids, stand me up, let me walk a little bit. Bada bing, you know, I'll find a way to win. And this thing in Greece was a really tough thing because all of us blew up our feet that first day on that 4-hour decline and blew our toes. And we didn't bring enough shoes. What you would see if you see how the 777 is that when I did the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, I took 4 pairs of shoes. I took a 12, 12 and a half, 13, and a 14 because I'd learned that my feet swell. In Greece, I didn't know my feet would swell like that. So my feet were encompassed with blisters, both sides, underneath, between every toe. And it was like walking on glass every morning when I got out of bed. And then I learned, listening to Goggins, you guys know David Goggins, I learned that you can get through pain. And so when he taped up his broken legs in Navy SEAL training with duct tape, I said, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get through this pain of all these oozing, gross blisters that are just stuck in my sheets when I wake up in the morning, and stick them back in that same shoe and put that thing down and then run 30 miles on it again. And I learned that I could get past pain about 15 minutes into that. They would deaden. I could deaden my feet. And so once I learned this is the most excruciating pain outside of being burned that I've ever felt, but if I would just stay on them and press, they'll finally deaden. And I went, that's a mental wall for me. It's a physical wall, but I can do more than I thought. So you finish off the next 200 miles with your feet screwed up, and you go, that's a trip. Didn't think that was in the game. But you learn to adapt with your stuff. But you start that way back in high school, and then special ops, you keep building, till pretty soon you have a resume of, I know this stuff. I've been here before, and I've learned how to mentally get around just suffering. I can suffer into a better place and win. And that's been the best part of my life, because I can say to kids, I know how bad it is, but you can do this stuff. And most of my life, I didn't have faith that I could do these things, but I had faith in the person who said I could do them. Because if he had faith in me, then I just put my faith in what he had faith in, right? So when there's one teacher that believes in a kid, when all the other parents or kids don't believe in you, you'll live for that one voice, the power of one. And if you can find somebody who believes in you when nobody else does, it'll carry you. And all my stuff was, I took my adventure flag with me everywhere I went. That's after the Iron Man. You're showing pictures, huh? Anyway, this is a guy, hold that just for a second. So this is a Jamaican, and he's a big black guy. But he is from the St. Bonaventure water polo and swim team in New York, a scholarship player from Jamaica on the Jamaican national water polo team. He gets married, gets bummed out, puts on 60 pounds. He's sick with his life, hates his life. Somehow he says to himself, he's getting a divorce. I'm going to get this weight off. I'm going to go do my first Ironman. I see him out on the course, and he's delirious. He's about 18 miles into his marathon, and he's just, and he's a big boy. He's 6'6", 240 there. And I just go, hey, dude, what's up? And he goes, I don't know, where am I? And I said, breathe. He looks at me, he says, I don't know if I can do this. I said, you can do it. And he goes, I can? I go, oh yeah, you're in a great place. I lied to him, you're in a great place. And so then I walk with this guy, and I get him, get your arms right, get your head up, drinking stuff, and I get him practicing this, Rose Bowl, elbow, wrist, right? Hello, Rose Parade? I said, when we're going by these people, I want you to go by all these people going like this. I'm an Iron Man. I'm tremendous. I'm great. And he's dizzy. He can't, he's falling and stuff. I'm an Iron Man. I'm doing great. And so for the next 6 miles, I said, dude, breathe. Look straight ahead. Drink the stuff. Wave at the people. Tell them, I'm an Iron Man. And we got to the finish line. He looked at me. He started crying. And I said, dude, go through the finish line. He goes, no, go with me. I go, no, this is your moment. And remember, when you get to the finish line, 10 steps before the finish and 5 steps after, you got to get your arms in the air. That's when the pictures are. And just fake it. Just smile, So I said, go. And he goes, okay. And he runs to the end of the room, puts his arms up, and he gets his picture taken and stuff. And he just stands there and turns around and looks at me. So I come running up, and I embrace him, and he collapses on my shoulders. Just starts sobbing like a little kid. The doctors run up. What's the deal? He's an Iron Man. What do you mean, what's the deal? He's having an Iron Man moment. Get over it. And they go, sure? And I go, no, he's really screwed up. Get him in the hospital. And so You know, they take him away, and I see him with his IV bags, and he spends the night in the hospital, you know, and he's done. He's so done. Anyway, I give my phone number. He calls me, comes to the resort, and he comes down to kiss me and hug me and say, "You made me an Ironman." I said, "I told you there was more in you than you thought. You wanted to quit way before your time." But he needed someone to carry him mentally because he didn't have the stuff himself. This is Antarctica. This is land. Our two jets are on the thing. It's 20 below zero. And this is Novo. This is the closest side to Africa. This is our briefing before we start going. All types of people from all over the world. And this year was number 5. You don't need to see any of this stuff. Any other questions? Yes.
What's your daily workout program?
You know, I'm an adopted kid out of St. Joseph's Hospital in Orange. I have no medical history at all. At about 35, a doc said to me, "If you want to be healthy, it would help you since we don't know who you are. So why don't you just stay healthy, work out." And so part of my medical insurance is I work out. I feel healthy and I want to stay healthy, and it combats bad things. My workout is every day, about 5 days a week. I try to run at least an hour. So I get up early in the morning and I do a treadmill or outside, and I just work my heart. I go up and down on a treadmill or outside, and then I go into my conditioning work if I'm not working out at CrossFit. I really like CrossFit because CrossFit for me is overall body conditioning, and it changes your body. Your body just changes. You burn fat different, you feel different. For me, it works. So every day, my base stuff is I do about 2 hours. But I get it done so I can be done by 8:30 in the morning. I have a life. Yeah, I got 2 new shoulders, and I have a new knee in the last 2 years. So I tore this rotator cuff doing push-ups with a 20-pound pack. I got my arms too wide one day. I felt that thing tear. That was before Kokoro, so I had to get through Kokoro, that 50-hour thing with a torn rotator cuff. Then I tore this one. I was doing box jumps. You know, box jump, you jump on a box. And I got in a box jump competition, which was really stupid. But you know, how high can you go, dude? And so they keep putting plates on the box, and you keep jumping higher. I got really high, 36 inches, and I tripped on this toe, and I went down over the box. That's why they have soft boxes these days instead of hard ones. And I fell over the box and hit this thing, and the elbow popped and jammed out with my arm. So that, in this training period, I was 6 months down with my arm in a sling. So I just worked on core work and squats and stuff when I couldn't use my shoulder. And I just got a new knee surgery about 4 months ago, and felt it tear, and went in and said, "Cut me," and they cut me, and 4 days later I was back doing squats. I said, "Sweet." So for me, if you're an athlete, you get injuries, don't get shook up about it. It's just life. Get over it, and it's another challenge. And I don't think any of you should do all that, but for me, you know, you get to know your body and it'll recover. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Dumb question.
No dumb questions.
About the movie, The Last Full Measure. I haven't seen it yet.
Have any of you seen The Last Full Measure? Oh, you want to make me cry. The Last Full Measure is the story of our Pararescue Medal of Honor winner, who is an Air Force guy in Vietnam. It's a tremendous movie, and Samuel L. Jackson will probably get an Academy Award, and possibly Christopher Plummer for playing this guy's dad. Samuel L. Jackson plays a black Vietnam vet, and what happens is the Army gets ambushed, and their medic gets shot, and so they call for the Air Force to come in. So a guy comes down the rope, an Air Force guy who doesn't know anybody, and he begins to save these guys' lives and get them up in baskets. And when he gets them up in baskets, the Viet Cong get closer and closer and closer, and everyone is going to die. It's an ambush. They know everyone's going to die. And the Air Force guys in the helicopter keep saying, "Come up, get out, come up." And he said no, and he died saving all these Army guys. Well, what happens is the Army guys are so bummed that he doesn't get the Medal of Honor that for 32 years they lobby Congress and say, "You messed up. This Air Force guy who doesn't know one of our names, we're alive today because of this guy." And so Clinton finally gave his parents posthumously the Medal of Honor for this only Air Force guy who's ever done this before. And so the last full measure is the words that Abraham Lincoln gave when he said in one of his addresses, the greatest thing you can do in life is to give your last full measure for your brother. So the movie's The Last Full Measure. And I took my kids, I made them go, and they were undone. They just cried. And when you go to the theater, you'll hear the sniffles all over the theater from men and women. I mean, it's just so touching. The way they portray this guy going in and saying, it's my job to die. I must save these men. And so our thing on our beret is that others may live. So if you haven't seen Last Full Measure, it wasn't at all the theaters, but a lot of them, I encourage all of you to go and take a young person and say, what values did you get out of this? What did you see in this? Because it's a counterculture film to where our kids are today. Right? So yeah, I really hope you'll go. Yes, in the back. Somebody else had a, yes.
What's your favorite energy food?
I don't have one.
You eat everything.
I don't eat much. I find different protein bars that I'll eat when I need them. I've tried a ton of supplements. Some do better than others. I find that if I can get great protein in me versus carbs when I need it, I can do much better. But I've never been able to find the right formula for me. Actually, what happened in the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 Culture, I ate less every day. You just get into a zone where it isn't about how you feel. You just got to go do the work, no matter how you feel. You feel like a zombie when you get off the plane and you start running and you can put all the food in you want. It's a head game. And so I found that every day I just ate less and less. The breathing techniques that we teach our special ops guys to get control of their emotions and to get a hold of their bodies. Animals pant, and an animal's never in control. And when he finally gets, he's back to normal. He can't control his breathing. A mammal, us, should be able to breathe, not have to pant. And so we teach you how to breathe and not have to, we don't allow that. You can't do that. You do 20 more burpees if you sound like that. You've got to learn to and get a different oxygen up inside. And so we work hard that you're never, ever allowed to be out of control. And you practice it so much. When I did the 7 marathons, I ran all 7 marathons with my mouth closed. And that's mind control. And it's because I don't ever want to feel out of control. I want to be in control. Because my mind will flip me out if I don't get control. It'll say, you're so frigging stupid. Why are you doing this? So you can't allow those thoughts to get in. And you have to learn how to control your mind. So that's one of the things you learn. It takes a lot of work and practice, but you can do it. Yes, sir.
When you were at PJ school, did they talk about a couple of PJs that were seared, like Neil Black, guys that were Hanoi?
Yeah.
Did anything come out of that with the training?
We talked about all the guys that we knew of in Vietnam and the things that they went through. In my town in Reno, pardon me?
Did any of that, what did you gain from that person that translated to you in your life? Did you learn from those stories?
I didn't know how to process. I'm doing a winter ascent of Mount McKinley. Nobody's ever done a winter ascent of Mount McKinley that I know of. We did it for a training mission, just to see how far we get before we got blown off. We got to Windy Corner at 14.3 at 100 below zero. You know, and it was just wind. It was like 25 below zero with an 80-mile-an-hour wind. And we were in an ice cave, and I'm with this guy, and I'm 24, and he was probably 26. He's a real quiet guy. Talk about Vietnam and trying to process that. I said to him, you know, you're really quiet. I mean, are you quiet? Are you screwed up, or what are you, you know? And he goes, I'm quiet. And I said, so like, what's the deal on being quiet? What happened? Remember all of our POWs missing in action? So our guys were assigned to go find those POWs. So this kid at 26 He said, well, we were going to find our guys. So we'd put 10 gooks, 10 Vietnamese, in a Huey at a time, take them up to 1,000 feet, and say, where are our guys? And if they wouldn't talk, we threw them out of the helicopter. First, you talk? No. Ah. You want to talk? No. Ah. You want to talk? No. He said, I took over 120 guys up in that helicopter and threw them out. But we got guys to talk. And we found some POWs. And I thought, how do you process that at 25, 24, right? So when they come home with stories like that, you're going, I don't know. We're here to save lives, and we're going to find our men. So war screws up people. In my town where I raised my kids in Reno, 70% of the homeless were all Vietnam vets. And I will tell you a story. I was teaching leadership in Wellington, New Zealand, the capital. And I'm doing a leadership conference, and this older couple comes up. And he's shocking white hair, about 6'4", and she looks like a Mennonite with a little bow thing and a high dress and a long thing. You know, she looked real plain, Quaker Mennonite. And they said, thank you so much for speaking. And I said, sure. You guys are wonderful to see here. What's the deal? We like you. Okay, tell me your story. You know, who are you? We've been married about 40 years. They're 80. Okay, well, how'd that happen? How'd that work out? Well, she said, I walked every day to work, and there was a guy living under a bridge, the freeway on-ramp. And every day when I walked to work, there was this guy living on this bridge. And every once in a while I'd look at him, and every once in a while he'd look at me, and 2 years passed, I'm just looking at this guy living under a bridge. One day I say, hi, you okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm fine, thank you, nice to see you. Nothing. They develop a conversation. Somewhere like the third or fourth year, he comes out, hi, what's your deal? He said, I was in Iwo Jima. And when I got out, there was no green in my uniform. It was all dark red from all the hand-to-hand combat. There was blood. I was soaked in blood from hand-to-hand combat. And when I got back, they gave me a can of chocolates and cigarettes and said, thank you for your service. And I drank. I didn't know what to do. We would call that PTSD today. But those guys didn't have anything. They just walked into society. And he said, I didn't know how to function, so I went and lived under that bridge. And then the sweet woman saw me year after year doing that thing, and I just eked out a living. And finally she said, can I bring you a sandwich? And can I help you this and help you that? She said, he turned out to be a real nice guy. I really thought he was a nice man. And so at 40, we got married. And he's been my husband for 40 years. And he's worked through his stuff. He doesn't drink anymore and worked through his things. And I went, wow, that's intense. And so how does that affect people? I'll give you one last story. You like stories? So I'm doing a men's conference in Oregon. And a guy stands at the back with his arms crossed the whole time I'm talking. As I'm talking, he just stares at me. And so all these people come shake my hand. How you doing? Nice to see you, blah, blah, blah. And he finally, I go, hey, what's up? Last guy in the room. So he comes walking forward. And I say, my name is Robert. He goes, I know who you are. Heard you tonight. Well, thanks, What's your name? Fred or something. What's your deal? Why are you here? Why don't you leave like everybody else? He said, I listened to you tonight. And I said, and what did you hear? And he goes, it's time, come on up. It's time to end this thing. I said, what do you need to end? He goes, I need to forgive him. I said, who do you need to forgive? He said, all the guys that killed my friends. And he sticks his hand in his pocket, and he goes like this, just sticks it out. And I go, do you want me to do it? He goes, yeah, stick your hand in there. So I put my hand out, and he goes, bink. And I go, can I look at it? He goes, yeah. So I pull it back, and I go, what's this? It looks like popcorn. It's a necklace of popcorn. And then I look closer, and it's all teeth. And I said, sweet, whose are these? He said, these are all the guys that killed my friends. I got ears too. And I said, you've been thumbing this rosary in your pocket for 40 years since the Tet Offensive? Yeah. I said, how's that work for you? You know, 4 marriages, it worked pretty good. Oh, you're so screwed up. And he goes, here, you can have it. And he said, you got to me tonight. I'm going to forgive and let go. Okay? Gave him a hug, shook his hand, he walked out the door, left me with these teeth. I went, this thing is intense. This stuff wrecks people, right? And so when we now work with our Navy SEAL kids and our Air Force Special Ops kids, we try to train them. We need to get emotional control because things are going to screw you up if you don't know how to control your mind. We need to have a better thinking young person than just one that gets hammered in their emotions all the time. Because you're going to see stuff that you're not prepared for. You're going to do stuff you don't know how to do. And if you don't do this, you'll lose it all.
We're going to bring it up. We have a little token of our appreciation from the club here for you. Thank you. I mean, so much great wisdom in that talk. Thank you so much for coming out to share that. So we have here for you, expressing grateful appreciation to Robert Owens for the interesting, informative, and entertaining program on adventure, endurance, and mental toughness the evening of March 5th, 2020, thus furthering the objectives of promoting the exchange and dissemination of knowledge between those who have had adventures off the beaten path. Thank you. Thank you.
When's your next triathlon, Ironman? You guys, I came home from the 777 and had a heart attack. And so